Welcome back to the Prymal Podcast 2021. That is mental. Thank you so much to everybody who supported the show over the last year. 2020 was packed full of incredible episodes with amazing guests, and this year is going to be even bigger. We have some crackers lined up over the next few episodes, so make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on Instagram at PrymalPro, PRYMALPRO, so you never miss an episode. Now, let's jump into the first episode of the new year. My guest today is Brian O'Loughlin from Movement 101. Brian and his business partner Rob Gallagher have built their company on a very simple ethos: to create value and to enhance the lives of their clients. Brian's expertise is movement, and in a modern world where many of us move way less than we used to and way less than we're designed to, Brian has designed a system for using movement to promote health, increase performance, prevent injury, reconnect with your instinct, and improve your quality of life. I'm a huge believer in how much you can improve everything in your life by simply moving better. When your body feels good, you're more capable, you're happier, you're more confident and robust. There's so many knock-on effects of having a body that can handle the daily grind a bit better. And on top of the physical movement practices and coaching offered by Movement 101, Brian and his team coach their clients on a whole range of personal development methods, tools and techniques designed to enhance you as a person, as opposed to just a set of muscles, tendons and bones. In the months leading up to this podcast, myself and Brian had loads of fascinating conversations about movement, life, self-exploration, business, growth, happiness and much, much more. And it was an absolute pleasure for me to have him on the Prymal Podcast. Brian and Movement 101 are on a charge to help people make real changes in their lives. So please do enjoy this wonderful episode. Welcome to our shared journey to find the answers to questions about health, wellness, nutrition, performance, life and success, and to craft the most resilient, hardy and happy humans you've ever seen. Welcome to the Prymal Podcast. Mr. Brian O'Loughlin.
Hello, sir.
Welcome to the Prymal Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Finally, we got you on.
Yeah. Well, no, you haven't asked me previously. I'm just constantly late for everything. I just happen to be asked for
Well, you was because it was a Christmas miracle today. You weren't late. You were 10 minutes early today.
There we go. It was literally a Christmas miracle.
Yeah. So I'm sure you get this probably every single time you do an interview. Is it Brian O'Loughlin or Brian Movement 101?
Well, actually, I've been the people who like have been consuming my content. It's like the movement guy. Like, that's all I'm known as. But yeah, no, it's Brian Movement 101 on Instagram. But now it's Brian O'Loughlin in real life.
Okay, well let's start right there then, because for anybody who doesn't know you, the movement guy. Why are you known as the movement guy? Where does this thing come from?
I suppose from the company. Myself and my business partner Rob have a company called Movement 101. It's been about 3.5 years old now. And we have a studio in Swords, but we're actually fully online now since the first COVID, very first time. But we essentially just help people move better. So I suppose I'm just known for it because it's all I ever do. It's all I ever talk about. It's it's literally what we do. So that's how I'm known as the movement guy.
Okay, well, it's all anybody does is we move, I suppose.
Yeah.
We have I put context on this because we've had loads of conversations that should have been podcasted, about 3-4 hours long. That the missus were ringing the phones, and we're like, where are you? About all of this kind of stuff. Movement is one element of this, but life in general, health and wellness, improving yourself, optimization, achieving goals, and all that kind of stuff. And why I found you very interesting from the start was my background is physio, I suppose, as well. So I was always interested in movement. We mentioned Nido Portal there, started to kind of investigate all these different styles of how people can optimize their body first. Before I got into all this wellness stuff, it was all body. I kind of say a lot, no disrespect to the course or anything like that, but when I finished college, I knew how little I knew about movement really, because you were told if someone comes in with A, do test B, and the answer is C. And when I actually started treating people, I was like, that never, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, 1, 2, 3, Batman symbol, strawberry cake. Like,
highly complicated.
So complex. And it usually, my best results were when I was just saying, look, we just got to move a little bit more. And that was kind of all I had. And then I started to see guys like Nido Portal, and then subsequently started to see guys like you getting into this field of movement, which is starting to erupt now because people are genuinely being drawn to this. So your background originally wasn't in movement, or it was more PT, was it?
Yeah, so I started off originally, I don't know what now, what am I in, 34? So 14 years ago I was a PT, regular PT, PT course, normal classes that you would do, etc. Then I went to college after that. I did a 4-year degree in physical and health activity, very similar to a sports science degree. And it was kind of after that. So I was still working in gyms throughout this time for about 4 or 5, 6 years. But I always had an unease about the gym, etc. I just thought it was a bit ridiculous. We would all be in this building and going mental and burning calories and shit.
It is a bit weird when you think of it.
Yeah, but then I had a really bad shoulder injury myself. So I couldn't really train like I wanted to. I actually got depressed for a while. I felt like a bit of a fraud teaching classes to people when I couldn't move really well. And that was the catalyst, I suppose, to explore movement, because I just get myself moving pain-free. I went to loads of practitioners and physio, etc., to try and deal with the issue. And I couldn't get it, and unfortunately, I was able to get myself moving pain free from implementing like different modalities, not necessarily just one thing,
Yeah.
And even to this day, people say like, oh, "What was wrong with your shoulder? Like, was it your rotator cuff, or was it like just impingement, or something?" I don't know. Like, it's the diagnosis itself is literally pointless.
Yeah.
It's just like I was in pain, and the idea is like I got the confidence, the ability to move pain free. So that was the catalyst, and then I made a real decision. And once I got myself moving pain free, I was kind of helping clients. So I was still training fat loss clients. I was helping them a little bit here and there with their little niggles and all. And I was like, well, geez, maybe I can make a business out of this. I could actually genuinely help people move better.
Yeah.
So I decided to kind of change my business model slowly towards that. So I still have fat loss clients, but got more clients moving better, and eventually I was able to go 100% clients moving better, or focus on that kind of modality. I met Rob, my business partner, about 4.5 years ago, and then we were offered a studio. Me and Rob were actually going to go online and do stuff movement wise, but we were offered a studio that we took 3.5 years ago. We haven't looked back since. It's been great.
And in terms of your traditional, like people still at this point, people struggle to get their heads around this movement thing, because they really do, like you say, want to put people in a box and what's your diagnosis and is it rotator cuff, and everyone has these buzzwords. Gas now when you listen to commentary on sports, all the commentators are now experts in physical therapy. That's definitely a stinger right there now. He's definitely got a grade 2 of his hamstring, and they're sitting up in the commentary box. But people love that because it's easy for them to understand and conceptualize. When someone comes into you and they say, I've back pain, if you were a traditional practitioner, let's say, a lot of the times we're looking for a diagnosis. We're looking for that's quadratus lumborum, or that's a bulging disc at L4 or something like that. But you kind of said there that's almost completely pointless. And I agree with you, by the way. But just to explain to people what that means is completely pointless, because it's not saying that there's no injury there.
Yeah.
But why is it pointless to have a diagnosis?
Well, first of all, I'm not a physio, right? So I can't diagnose what's wrong with you, so I don't know what is wrong with you. So you could be giving a diagnosis. A lot of times people are given a diagnosis and come in and say, this is my diagnosis. But all I'm looking at is I'm going to assess how you move, and then I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about your history, about your lifestyle, about your mindset, about your beliefs. Like, pain is not just this one structural issue. And if I tell you have a bulging disc,
you become the bulging disc.
Potentially, but it really doesn't mean a huge amount to you, apart from, oh my God, this is terrible.
Yeah.
So a diagnosis oftentimes is actually does more harm than good, because you think there's something wrong with you. You think you're broken. I can't do this thing. Will it be this way forever? When all we look at is how do you move. We look at giving you the confidence to actually physically move, and then educate you on how the brain, the body adapts, and not making you fearful of movement, because unfortunately that's what people are afraid when they're giving a diagnosis. If I move my back with this bulging disc, I'm going to do more damage, or I can't go and pick my child up, or I can't actually go and physically do what I want to do. So you have to be really mindful of is that pain oftentimes isn't actually a structural issue. Your pain is very, 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 very real, but it's multifactorial. There's many reasons why that pain could be there. So let's kind of dig a bit deeper than looking at the side of pain or your structural issue or your diagnosis, because I'm pretty confident it's not just that one thing is the issue. There's a lot of things you have to look at.
Yeah, it's kind of like if I look at modern health issues like obesity and diabetes and cancer and all that kind of stuff, there's a consensus now that a lot of that stuff comes from how our lifestyles have changed. We eat food that's not particularly good for us. We have sedentary lifestyles. We consume substances that aren't really good for us. And we've created all these chronic health problems. With movement, I look at it the exact same way. A lot of people now have back pain or they've issues with their hips or their groin or their neck and stuff like that. But I think it's a direct result of how we're living now, because we're not moving, we're sitting, we're sedentary, we're not doing the types of physical jobs we used to do where you get aches and pains from doing physical work, but you tend not to get the chronic low back pain. Like that's, most people be familiar with that, I'd say, at the moment, because we're sitting a lot more. And your approach, using movement to combat a lack of movement makes perfect sense to me, because that's really the problem nowadays. We have a chronic lack of movement. And I remember when I really started to get results when I was working as a physio, when I stopped doing the traditional get up on the bench and we'll rub you out there and we'll try and find what it is and click it and pop it and pull it and move it. And I was like, what are you doing all day? Because people were coming in and saying, my back is really sore. I think it's when I picked up the kid there last week or when I was playing football. I was like, well, what are you doing in general? Oh, well, I sit down for pretty much all day. I sit down and have my breakfast, sit down in the car, I sit down when I get to work, I sit down when I come home. But that's not the problem. The problem is I went to the gym then and I was like, well, hold on, no. That's probably not the problem. The problem is the thing you do all day. So that's kind of where you're coming from in terms of trying to re-educate people to move like we used to move, to use your body the way it's supposed to, and we'll avoid all these injuries rather than I'm going to diagnose your low back pain and fix it.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's a lot to pack in there in terms of what you said. Because even, like, for example, right, so you going to a physio.
Yeah.
Let's just give the analogy of going to a dentist. So when you go to the dentist and you cleaned your teeth, if you never brushed your teeth and you went to the dentist, do you think the dentist would go, oh yeah, I'm going to clean your teeth and we'll see you in 6 months' time?
Yeah.
He'd think you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And you'd feel like an idiot because you'd be like, I haven't brushed my teeth for 6 months, man. So any surprise that I've got gum disease? Yet what we do is when you have an injury, we go to a physio and we expect him to click, crack and rub us, leave and be fine. So forget what you're doing outside. You're not moving well. You're not eating well. You haven't slept properly for 6 months. Like, there's so many issues that are happening outside of this physical therapy or practice that you're doing that has a massive impact on how you move. And even this example as well of having back pain, for example, like what you can think of back pain of is like the common cold. We're all going to have it at some stage. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Okay. So unfortunately, though, people have back pain and they catastrophize the life out of it. Oh my God, my back is sore. I must have done damage. Well, what did I do? I can't pick up something. I better go and get an MRI. And then you're given a diagnosis of degenerative disc, which is like aging. It's completely normal. I say it's like wrinkles in your face. It's normal with aging. So if you have wrinkles in your face, you wouldn't say, oh my God, my face is degenerating. It is, but you wouldn't say it. So I got wrinkles. So you could just think of, I could get an MRI right now and my spine could literally be degenerating and I could see that on an MRI. It's fine. And I wake up sometimes with back pain. It's fine. I didn't do anything. I understand what the human body is. I understand what there's a pain there. I might take it a little bit easier. I might move a little bit more freely in terms of my spine and just get movement there. But I know in 2, 3, 4 days it will go away. But people just stop that because it's bad. You got pain here. You've been given this diagnosis, or I'm going to do more damage. And that's where education comes in, you know? So everything you're saying there about lack of movement, etc., I agree with all of that, you know? But I also agree that in modern life, we're kind of looking for issues and problems, you know? Like, pain is a very, 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 very normal thing to experience. Go back to 1,000, 2,000, millions of years ago, you would get pain because there's an issue here. And your brain goes, look, there's an issue here. You've just gone over your ankle or something. You better deal with this, you know? And the idea being that, like, it's there to show you there's a problem. Like, I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a small percentage of people in the world who don't feel pain. They die earlier than we do. Because if you were to cut yourself...
don't have the warning signs.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a cut in your arm, you're bleeding profusely, and you just ignore that for the last 4 hours because you don't feel pain. Like, pain is there to tell us there's an issue. The issue you have with pain is when it becomes chronic, which you have classes over 3 months. Because normally you would say, structurally, it's going to heal. And then when it goes over 3 months, a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, that begins then to affect your whole lifestyle. So pain is very, very individual. If you have pain for 10 years... I can guarantee you're not living a life that you feel fulfilled. You're making decisions based off your life. You feel you're going to be this way forever. Like, there's so many things that begins to affect that all of a sudden it's not just about your back pain anymore. It's about everything you believe yourself, your mindset, your body, how that impacts the decisions you make on your life. So that's why we can't just say, go and do this exercise or just, go and get rubbed or whatever, because it's not that simple. It really isn't. So if you're looking at pain through one lens, you're missing out on a world of opportunity. So what we look at movement as a catalyst to change your life. It's literally going to change your life because it's everything. It's your mindset, it's the beliefs that you have, it's the education, it's your past experiences, it's your movement. It's like, I just keep going and going and going and going. So I'm not trying to help your pain. I'm literally trying to change and educate you and give you the principles to literally change your life, because it is life-changing. I've been in pain myself. I've had the exact same experience like I've just mentioned there. It affected everything. I thought I'd never move pain. I felt like a fucking fraud and failure being a personal trainer, telling people what to do and I couldn't do it. I felt... I just never thought I'd equate to anything because I literally was focused and depressed on this pain and I couldn't do what I wanted to do with my life. Yeah. And then once you get out, the one thing I changed my mindset. I did a course, a bodyweight course, and I got through the weekend pain free, like relatively pain free, and I couldn't believe it. I literally was like, whoa. And when I got through that, I was like, I can move pain free one day. Changed everything. Like, it changed that weekend changed everything. So I wasn't moving pain free, but I genuinely believe for the first time in 4 years I can move pain free. And from there, fuck me, I didn't stop. I'll explore and try this, and so I was able to work through a little bit of pain, knowing that it's okay. So I'm rambling on here because it's but there's so much to it, because and that's what we try to get across on our Instagrams, etc. And don't get me wrong, I give exercises to help with tight hips and back pain or whatever you want to say, but like it's not just to do this one thing and that's it. It's very, very individual, and also it's not that I'm going to tell you what to do. I will educate you, I'll empower you, I'll give you the self-efficacy and the responsibility that you now need to take yourself and implement. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But don't expect to go to the physio/dentist and expect that person to fix you when you're not doing the things necessary for your life in order to get what you want to get.
I love this. It's always circles back around to this when we have these type of conversations. Take control. Everyone says that phrase. Everyone who's in this kind of field or who's passionate about this type of stuff, like yourself and myself, it always comes back to take control, empower, educate, learn, do it yourself rather than relying on somebody else to do it for you. And again, I'll say it again, and I'm going to say it every single time to qualify. Physios and doctors and all these different people, dentists and all that, absolutely have their place in this system, but it's a system. And I think, and you can disagree or agree with me here, I think one of the major problems and possibly why you've become so popular nowadays is because the system tends to have a lot of individual parts, and you go to part A, could be the physio or the doctor or whatever it is, and they will deal with that individual part expertly, but we are a system ourselves. We are a system. We're an ecosystem. So if you just deal with one thing, you're not really taking care of the whole problem. So do you think that's kind of why people live with pain or don't improve, is because they are going for treatment for their back pain, for example? Let's take up back pain now, but it's not really looked at as part of a bigger system. Like you mentioned, beliefs, like who you are and your purpose and all that kind of stuff as well. And most people go, what the fuck does that have to do with back pain? But you just kind of explained really well. Do you think that's why people struggle to get better with more traditional methods? Because there's loads of people, like I'm one of them as well, who carried injuries for years and years and years and years and years, went to all these different experts who were fantastic in their own right, but there was other stuff going on behind that they weren't really looking at.
Yeah, I do. First thing I suppose to say is that like there's plenty of physios who do manual therapy and educate at the same time. So like just like a dentist. I went to the dentist there last week and I was asking him questions and he told me some good stuff I didn't know. So as much as they're going to help you in that session, there's plenty of amazing physical therapists that educate you, that introduce movement, that do the exact same thing that I would do. It's just that unfortunately there are also others who don't, But yeah, I do believe like it's a big thing. It comes down to education. It really does. And it's not that you have to. Someone comes in for one session, you tell them this straight away, and that's it. Just like say a fat loss journey or something. It is a journey. It takes time. It takes education. There's tools there that have to be implemented over time, and depending where you are in that journey, will depend what you're giving right now and where you're going to be going. So it's just, even though this idea. I don't know. It's kind of just looking at, as you mentioned, they're not looking at the individual parts or this one thing. Even the likes of pain. Like pain isn't very well educated in our society. Pain is seen as a bad thing, and it really isn't. Like genuinely, it's not a bad thing. It's just something that if you understand what it is, and like I mentioned, it's literally a science behind pain. There's pain science that it is massive, and you go down a rabbit hole, you get lost. We've been doing that for the last 2 or 3 years. It's unbelievable. So it just comes down to education, which I think starts from the likes of school at a young age, and telling people that they have so much more power than they're actually giving away. Like we always just appeal to authority, and we never actually question it. Like even for example, like I'm not saying all doctors are terrible again, but you're allowed to question authority. You literally are. It's not say that they're wrong. It's not say that you're right. But you're asked to go, oh, why? Or what does this mean? Or so you're allowed to be interested in what that person is saying because it has relevance to your life. So how does that apply and why does it apply and can you tell me more?
That's what I think it boils down to. Yeah, that's actually a great way of putting it. We don't question enough. That's what this whole take control thing that I always buzz on about is you don't have to just swallow everything you're given because it's your life. Like if you think everybody knows how to run your life better than you do, you're not going to have a good life.
Exactly.
You're going to end up miserable and angry and shouting at the TV because the government's not doing what you want and getting annoyed because the doctor didn't give you the medicine you wanted and getting annoyed because the physio hasn't made your back pain go away. But at the end of the day, if you don't question and take responsibility, you're going to be like that for the rest of your life, and you're going to live with
And
pain.
even like question what I'm saying, genuinely.
Absolutely,
And that's
yeah,
the big. It's like I'm not saying what I'm saying is gospel. I'm just giving you my experiences and what I've learned, the education that I have. So why and what's going on. And like what I've done now today is different than I did last year. It's going to be different than I'm going to do next year because I'm going to keep learning. So what I learn right now is what I'm implementing. I'm going to keep learning.
Yeah.
I finished college. I finished my degree 8 years ago. I've learned more in 8 years than I did in that 4 years. Genuinely, because I haven't stopped. Like I keep questioning, I keep learning because, well, life evolves, science evolves, things evolve, and as you mentioned there, I'm trying to take that responsibility for my life, and I'm just trying to give my experience then to help other people. But like, don't give your power away. You really have much more power than you're giving yourself credit for. And the idea is to start small with small little wins, and it can get bigger. But you just giving that power away, again, does much more harm than good because you're asking someone else to fix a situation that is literally, well, first of all, probably not even broken, but they can't fix. It's just that you're so unaware of the power that you have, and then once you have that awareness, it's life changing.
Yeah. That's actually that's a great point, because I think sometimes people listen to, like, I'm big on I do this podcast and have these conversations for a very selfish reason. I want your knowledge and experience. I want to listen to you speak and educate me and give value to me, and then I'll decide the bits that are applicable in my life, and I'll apply them. And I have really noticed over the last few years that it has massively improved my quality of life. And when you start that and you taste it, it becomes addictive, and you just want more and more and more, and you want to surround yourself with people who are offering more and more value, and you realise you don't have to just take everything that everybody says, but you can listen to everything respectfully and then decide which bits apply properly to you, apply them, and then your life improves. And I feel like a lot more people are starting to do that now. Sometimes these kind of conversations can be interpreted as a little bit patronising to people because they're like, oh, well, it's easy for you. I don't come from a movement background. How am I supposed to know this stuff? However, these sort of resources, we're doing a podcast now, and it's going to be distributed and people are going to listen. You can take that value for nothing, for absolutely free. Brian is charging me to come on the podcast, but for free, you can have that value and you can start to improve your life. And I feel like people are getting there, but there is a hesitance, like you said, to question those authority figures, because it's almost seen as, especially in this country, disrespectful to question what the doctor says to you, or to question what the physio or the priest or the lawyer or any of these authority figures say to you. There's a resistance to that. But you're a great example of this, because over the last 4 or 5 years, your company has massively exploded. And I said about name drop, but there's people now who are high profile people with all the resources are coming, asking you questions and looking for your value and looking for your guidance and education, because they recognize that they don't just have to follow one train. They can now, they've seen the movement, they've seen the Movement 101 lifestyle pitch, let's call it, and they liked it, and they're engaging with you, and they're engaging with other kind of mainstream, let's call it, resources, but they're starting to gravitate towards a message like yours. And you've got 50,000 followers on Instagram now. I'm not big on the numbers, but that's just an indicator of people are flocking to this kind of message, to this kind of resource. So people are starting to question, which is really positive, because I find a lot of times I sound real negative. People don't know how to do this. I am people. I am a person. I am one of these people I talk about all the time, and I'm much more interested in these kind of messages. Now, I come from this background, but it's really, really healthy, I think, for people to do what you've just said there, to try and educate themselves. And this is your journey, your message to try and help.
I would even just take a bit of background, because like I've been doing this movement stuff, say, for about 8 years, and like not at the level obviously I'm doing now, and like obviously Movement 101 is 3.5 years old, so I get not necessarily kickback, but for years, like, people are like, oh, you go and do your stretching, you bend, or you haven't a clue what you're doing. And like, again, not that what I'm doing is better or I'm right and you're wrong. It was a genuine interest of mine. I believed in what I was doing, and I just kind of kept going with it, and if you follow my journey or whatever, I just think you could take a lot of inspiration from that, because it's not that the journey has been easy. It's not that I've got 50,000 followers now and life is rosy or whatever, but it's just like, it's a genuine passion. It's a belief that I can help people, and it's coming from an intuition and something that I want to do, like, so again, I've questioned things, and not that I know better or whatever, but I've always just questioned what I learn, and is this right, and can we do better, can we learn more, and it's just exploration and curiosity, and I think that's what life is.
Absolutely.
And I think if you don't do that, unfortunately, you're not really living not necessarily a fulfilled life, but certainly a life that you can get more potential from, because like you said, once you go down that rabbit hole, you start to implement this thing, it does then begin to stack on top of itself, and it can really take you somewhere that Jesus, for myself personally as well, you can only imagine a few years ago, never mind what you could do for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you mentioned rabbit hole there. Before we go down that rabbit hole of life and all that kind of stuff, I just want to ask you a couple more questions about the Movement 101. Again, just to paint a picture for people who find it difficult to visualize what this actually looks like. So if someone comes to visit you,
Yep.
With whatever, I'm sure you get athletes looking to improve performance, people who just want to be well, people with actual physical issues and pain that want to move past their pain or whatever like that. What does that process look like? Because it's not just, right, here's your exercise and off you go.
Yeah, well, it's actually changed now because we're online.
Of course. Yeah.
So it used to be in the studio. So we only have a very few individual clients, and then we've built separate programs now that are kind of more for cater towards, well, bigger audiences, etc. So if an individual will come to me, they'd sign up to me. I'd have gone through a call with them to make sure that I can help them and a plan, etc. They'd sign up, and then really what they do is they fill out a questionnaire, and then they fill out a movement assessment video. So we're physically looking at how they move. With that questionnaire, then, as I kind of mentioned, but some of the stuff like lifestyle, their beliefs, like how many nature hits they get, their past injury
When you say
history.
beliefs, what do you mean by beliefs?
Their beliefs. So just for example, like I'd ask questions like, what's your old injuries and where do they come from? So, this happens.
Okay.
So even like the idea is like you can tell an awful lot of information from people about like what they believe. I've done all the stretching in the world and my hips are still tight,
Yeah,
and the idea is that they've gone down somewhere that I don't believe is actually the best resource to go. So they actually haven't used the tools that is much more applicable. So they believe themselves that they are stuck in this way forever, but they actually haven't been using the best tools. So you can approach that person a different way than you would, say, someone who has potentially tried what I've tried, maybe has been in pain for 10 years and is depressed, for example.
Yes.
So them two people you're approaching just differently.
Yes.
You're asking different questions. You're actually getting to do something different. You're starting in a different context. So that questionnaire has about 15 to 20 questions that just covers so much, and that gives me a lot more information than just that movement assessment. So definitely looking at how they move, but I want to see their lifestyle, their beliefs, their education, their background. It goes on and on and on. And then them two things from there, that initially helps me build a program. So the first 2 weeks are built. They get access to the app and they begin to follow for the first 2 weeks. But the first 2 weeks from that program, we're also using it as an assessment as well. So we're looking at how they're getting on with their movements. That feels good, bad, and different. And then we could alter them if we have to or whatever. And then we work together for 3 months normally. And that progresses essentially. The program progresses. You move on, you build a foundation, we kind of push you more and more. And then after that, athletes we train, and we've trained them for the last 6 months to a year to 2 years. People will stay on afterwards and just be long-term clients.
Okay.
We train a lot of professional athletes and we just help them obviously throughout their career. So there's just an interchange then of kind of just month by month kind of basis, So the reason we built then separate programs was just because we're quite busy individually. We're booked up now for I think about 6 months individually, so we can't take clients on. So we just have separate programs then to give you the tools of very similar and to build a community of like-minded people to, again, use movement as a catalyst to change your life.
Yeah, which is, I suppose, because you're not looking to lose 10 pounds. That's your goal. You're looking to move better. And it's very hard to quantify that. I know you can measure and you can look at movement and stuff like that, but that realistically should be something you're signing up for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Well, even for example, you have a program called Mobile for Life, and it's a one-off payment for lifetime access. We've built the first 4 months, but there's actually about just over 2 years worth of programming. And we always update that as well. So potentially you could do that forever.
Yeah.
That's kind of the aim. The aim is this isn't a program to complete. It's a program to introduce into your life, into your own training, and to make you better to do whatever the hell you want to do. So we have, Gaelic footballers. We have people who sit at a desk all day. We have people who start with, hip issues. So the aim is just to get you physically moving better. And as a result, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. And there's no end to that, Yeah. There's just exercises that you can implement. You can build your own program. We can help you build your own program. There's programs there to follow if you want to. But you're just doing this to make sure you have the confidence, the control, the capacity to move well, to do what you want to do for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. Just keep going.
Yeah. Here's me being a little bit cheeky then and stealing some of your value for myself. Gaelic football, right? Because I'm a Gaelic footballer.
Yep.
What do you see with something like a team sport like Gaelic football? Because you work with guys on an elite level right down to kind of club level and stuff like that. So you've seen all the different echelons of this. What are the problems with these type of sports? You've got young guys who are not necessarily professional athletes, but who are playing a very competitive sport. Now I'm going to use Gaelic as the example, but take soccer, rugby, whatever. And everybody has a way of doing things, and you have your static or your dynamic stretching or all the typical stuff you see. What do you see to be the issue, the baseline issues with sports like that, and why are people getting the same kind of groin, hamstring kind of issues?
Well, again, first of all, to look at it in the sense of injury being multifactorial again.
Yeah.
So, if you look at professional sports, they're pushing their bodies a hell of a lot harder than, say, amateur athletes.
Yeah.
So, you have to take into account recovery, so sleep, diet, even like the likes of mindset, it's stress management, etc.
That's exactly what I was hoping you were going to say.
So it's that's really important.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from a biomechanical and movement lens, for want of a better word, it's just actually, unfortunately, what we see with all athletes, both professional and amateur, is that they're looking at getting stronger and building more muscle, which is brilliant. But the idea is that they don't realize that oftentimes when they go a bit too far in terms of building muscle in the gym, it actually has an adverse effect on what they do on the pitch. Because what the gym is a really regimented, perfect technique environment. The pitch isn't. The pitch is batshit crazy.
Yeah.
So what you want to make sure you can do is that you're strong, so it is still strength training, but in range of motion that you are going to literally perform on the pitch, but yet you don't train in the gym. So that's what we see. And then you mentioned there with like the static stretching, etc. People look at mobility as foam rolling and stretching. Like just think of doing foam rolling and stretching, static stretching, and then going onto a pitch. Like you don't foam roll and you don't static stretch on the pitch. You go fucking mental for 70, 80 minutes and you're being attacked literally by players going for a ball. Like it's pure chaos.
It's war.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you prepare your body in the gym through strength training to better be able to do that. So what, for example, Gaelic football requires is strength endurance. Like you're literally going to go for 70 minutes. So you need to have a good level base of strength so you have a lot more to endure on that pitch.
Yeah.
So we just look at mobility as strength training. All of our programs are strength training. We don't class them any different. They're just training areas that potentially people don't train. It's training for movements in life and the pitch that are a little bit different and a little bit off technique, or not perfect technique, because that's the idea. There's no one way to move. There's no bad way to move. And particularly if you're playing sport, especially at the highest level, you're going to go to a range of motion. You're going to be asked to do something that's completely unorthodox and mental. Make sure your body can do that well first, because it becomes a hell of a lot easier to do that on the pitch then.
Yeah. It's brilliant. The first thing that lit my brain up, did you ever read Dr. Kelly Starrett's like a super leopard, becoming a super leopard? That thing about a leopard never stretches or foam rolls. A leopard's ready like that to go chase the buffalo or whatever it is. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And you posted a picture a while ago of Conor O'Callaghan catching a ball. And it's a great illustration of what you've just described there, because if you go into the gym and you do your squats and your deadlifts and you have this buzzword, functional strength, and the instructor, the PT, or whoever it is, strength and conditioning coach says, right, it's functional strength now, going to put you through the positions that you're going to be on the pitch, but it's 3 sets of 8 doing jump squats, whatever, that functional strength. But it's not really, because you look at that picture of Conor O'Callaghan and his hip is massively externally rotated and he's doing the splits and he's rotated backwards and he's reaching over his head. I've never seen anybody do that movement in the gym until I started to follow people like yourself and Kelly Starrett, who are just going through these mental, weird, contorted positions. And you have a phrase, innate strength. Is that right?
It's one of our programs. So yeah, the idea is that like everyone has this strength within them.
Yeah.
And all the programs do is just get that mobility and strength out of you. Because that's ideally, when you think of, so for example, having like tight hips, it's essentially your nervous system, your brain, going, I don't trust you to be able to move
in that range.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what it has to do, it has to pull the brakes on.
Yeah.
So that's all it is. So you can, again, smash and foam roll and get short-term relief. But the brain, the nervous system doesn't trust you for a reason. Again, it could be, like I mentioned, your lifestyle, your sleep. It could be the past experience. You believe that you're broken, or your parents had hip issues or whatever. It's not just movement. But what movement does, it gives you, first of all, the control and strength to go there, but also the confidence. You believe you can actually go there. You're actually working on this, and that has a massive impact. So, like, that's like everyone. I'm not mobile by nature. If you follow me on Instagram, I can do amazing stuff. I just train this way.
Yeah.
I've trained much longer than most people this way. If you train the way I train, you could do what I do. It's nothing special. The body gets good at what you do. It literally is that simple.
Yeah. I'm delighted you said that about all the background stuff, the lifestyle, the sleep, the mindset, and then putting your body through positions that you're going to be in on the pitch as well. Because when you traditionally think about any sport, specifically field sports, you've got your strength, which is your gym work, your conditioning, which is your pre-season running, and then your bit of stretching. Right, lads, do 30 minutes every evening on your foam roller.
And
that's it.
That was a big thing for us as well, because like for me personally, I don't like static stretching. Like this idea, like with mobility work, it's always seen as an afterthought. I'm going to get the proper work done.
Yeah.
And I have to fucking do mobility, the effort of it all.
Yeah.
And the idea is that like I get that, and I would have been like that years ago when I was foam rolling myself and all that. But now it's like, no, it's the wrong. You're looking at the wrong lens.
Yeah.
Like I love strength training. I want to get stronger. I get mobile at the same time doing it. Like again, it's the intent behind what you do, and that's what we are trying to educate people, that you don't need to separate the two. You don't need to. You're not doing stretching. You don't have to do stretching. But,
yeah.
But again, it comes back to movement, because movement is strength. Not just like we're moving, so you can actually like mobility is the ability to move. So you want to make sure you have the ability to move, and that requires strength. So you can physically do that yourself. You know, you don't want to rely on somebody else. You don't want to rely on an external implement. You don't want to rely on gravity. Even you want to actually physically be able to do that yourself, and that requires strength. So it always comes back to some level of strength. It's just again looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah. I always find this amusing because if you've never tried, because I obviously try some of the movements that you have up on Instagram and stuff like that. If you've never tried something like that, and you look at guys who are into their movement, and you see them on the rings, and you see them doing these things in the bars, and you see some body weight work, and they tend to be lean guys, smaller guys.
Yeah. I'm 75 kg.
You're 75 kg. So, and this is why I think it's funny, because people would look at the big muscle-bound, muscular guy, take a rugby player, your bodybuilder. Like bodybuilding is a good example, because bodybuilding is a very, very, very specific.
Yeah.
You're building the body. You don't have any movement requirements.
Yep.
You don't really have any strength requirements. I know a lot of them are very strong. You don't have any strength requirements. You don't have any performance requirements. You don't have any agility requirements. A lot of bodybuilders have horrible pain and movement issues. But a lot of people would look at your bodybuilder and then your 75 kilo lean movement, I suppose, guru, and they'd say, well, he's not strong. What's he talking about strength? He doesn't know what strength is. That's not strength. Strength is in the gym, shifting steel. But if you've ever tried any of these movements, I try these. Sometimes you feel like a child.
Yeah.
You can't like lift your hip over this tennis ball.
Yeah.
Or your knee. I can't lift it. I don't have to. My brain won't let me do that, and I feel like I don't have the strength to do that. Yeah, you're in the gym, you're squatting big weights, and you're benching big weights. You feel like a big lad.
So Evan, you mentioned this. So when we work with any press, so any of our Premier League footballers, it's the exact same as we would look at someone coming in who's an amateur.
Yeah.
So, but what we look at literally is to make them a better human first, and then a better athlete. So everyone we train is to make you a better human. So I want you to be able, if you can lift your leg over that well, you'll be able to squat better.
Oh yeah.
So that's the idea. So the idea is that like we're looking at the lens of, can your body, your pelvis and your hip do these very human things? Because now to go and play Premier League football literally becomes easier, and we can begin to build on top of that and push you more and do more. But without that foundation, the best of the athletes in the world are genetically freaks and they get away with it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, and I deal with it all the time, ex-professional athletes, terrible arthritis, they're an absolute rag order, they can't physically play with their kids. What they sacrifice is their health. And what we train all of our athletes for is health and longevity. Forget football, Grant, earn a fortune and you're an animal and score goals. You're not going to be a footballer forever. So in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you've got to make sure you have that foundation now, because actually it will make you a better footballer. You'll feel and perform better. Fuck that. Like, I want to make sure you can do what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have a light bulb moment with that click for you? Because I definitely did. Like 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, because it was all like, lift heavier, perform more. And then I started to realize, I used to have awful hands. Now I was a young fella, 23, 24, and I was an athletic therapist as well. Like I understood, quotation marks, I understood hamstring injuries and fitness and stuff. I had awful hamstring issues for years. I was always getting injured. Was strong, was fast and all that, but was sore all the time. I was injured all the time, and my performance suffered. As soon as I stopped chasing this performance, PB, have to lift heavier, oh my God, it was amazing. I was going out, I was moving better, I was faster, I was actually stronger, I was enjoying my training more, I was performing way, way better. I was almost never injured, and lads, you know me, you're going to laugh, but I was almost never injured that did involve someone running into me. And it was incredible, and it was a real light bulb moment for me. It's like, I've been chasing this performance thing, but I was totally blinded to what's actually going to get me there.
Yeah.
And then I started to move a bit better and then spend a little bit more time. Now, again, it's slightly hypocritical. I'm not very good at it now, even my regular practices. But when I do have a week or two where I regularly get down and just moving and doing like deep squatting and just moving stuff, no real structure to it, I feel unbelievable.
Yeah.
I get out of bed better, I have more energy, everything improves. But then when I train better. I don't have clicky knees and sore hips when I'm squatting, when I do squat. I'm not looking for big numbers anymore. I'm just looking for good movement patterns. Everything in my head completely shifted.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really studied anything. I was just like, maybe it was around the time of Vito Portal or Super Leopard or something, maybe kind of said, oh, maybe I'll try that. But it was a real light bulb moment for me.
But even for me, just to get a bit of context, I did all the things that I say you should do.
Oh, yeah. I'm probably still doing a lot of them.
Like for years, I was trained through pain, I was foam rolling, I was stretching, like I was doing all stupid stuff, you know, that I look back now going, what the hell was I doing? And again, I don't remember a light bulb moment, but I definitely had that moment where I was like, okay, look, I don't need to do this anymore. I can do this other thing. I feel better for it. So I'm just giving my experience, because unfortunately, and that I think, going back to questioning what you're doing, we're always just told to go and squat, or you're told you have to burn this many calories, or, you know, and no one ever really asks why, or what are you trying to achieve? Like, so when someone always says to me, oh, but Brian, I'm going to do this. I was like, well, that's fine. Like, if you don't just take a step back slightly And if we kind of build that foundation, you won't be doing this for much longer, or certainly without pain, and potentially we're going to be in a year or 10. Or people don't realize that, particularly when it comes to movement and gym work and all that. Like it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like people love it. I love it. So when I was 23, like an idiot, bench pressing through pain, like I couldn't do it now. I'm now 34. Like I'd be in regular now, but like I move better than ever. I feel better than ever. I feel better now than I did at 23. But yeah, that 23-year-old didn't realize I would be 34 at some stage and still wanting to train. So you have to look at that longevity, because if you love doing that stuff and you keep doing it through pain, like you won't be able to do that for much longer, and potentially maybe not be able to do it at all. And then that's much, much worse than continue to do something that you love to do through pain, So you have to just look at the lens and try and step out of what you're trying to achieve, because you can definitely get there. I believe everyone can move pain-free, and people who are chronic long-term pain, who can't move pain-free, they can definitely live a really amazing life with pain. But it comes back to that education, that responsibility, and that empowerment, and that self-efficacy. It's not just, again, of just doing the same thing over and over or relying on somebody else, because I have that more to it.
Do you find that's part of the big resistance to this, is that it is a long-term investment? There's no immediate results. It's very hard to see the benefits of doing a very, very small internal, external rotation movement of your hip in terms of your performance over the next 6 weeks or 6 months. But in terms of 6 years, you are going to move much more. I'm not saying you... I'd say most of your clients probably do have very short-term improvements, because they're moving in ways they've never moved before, and you get very quick results. However, it's hard for people to visualize that, and people in their heads, even with gym stuff, and now it is very hard to improve with your weights, I suppose.
Yeah.
But in people's heads, they're like, right, I'm going to do 3 sets of 12 and my biceps are going to get bigger. I can visualize that. But when you say, okay, we're going to do thoracic extensions, or we're going to hang out at the bar, like, I don't know what that means. I don't want to do it because I can't see the immediate results.
Yeah,
I don't know what that means to me in 6 weeks' time. Is that part of the resistance you would see with people to doing this kind of stuff?
Yeah, to a certain degree, definitely. I mean, now, personally, I only train mainly kind of professional athletes individually. So training them is much easier, because they have a clear goal. Yeah. They have a clear performance perspective. They can go on that pitch in the weekend and go, geez, I feel amazing, Brian.
And they are looking for the extra 1%, whatever they can get.
It's their livelihood. So they're literally going to put in as much work as possible. Like I have a client currently, I think he's a championship player in the UK, and he's been with me 2 weeks, and he's just like non-stop asking me questions. He wants to learn. He's 24 years.
Very motivated,
Exactly. Been really affected with injuries over the last 3 years. He understands the benefit. If he can get his body right and performing well, he could potentially sign for a Premier League club and get more money. It's a huge incentive for them to actually work. So in that sense, it's we've been quite lucky. And then now with our other programs, what we're trying to do is build a real community, and not just around movement. Again, we're introducing all this other stuff because it isn't movement. It's nothing to do with internal external rotation. It is, but it's actually to use this as a catalyst again to change your life, and really to bring all aspects of your life in terms of mindset and emotional health, and what you believe you can do, and goal setting and everything, because it isn't just about movement. It completely changed my life and what I believed I was capable of, not just in terms of a physical capacity, everything. And I'm nothing special. I just understand this stuff. I've experienced this stuff. And our aim now is to grow a community and literally help millions of people have that same experience, because we really believe it can have a huge positive impact in their life.
Where did you learn a lot of this stuff? Like, obviously, you had your background in PT, and you had your mindset shift, and you wanted to do more kind of inclusive movement-based and lifestyle stuff. But did you start to look at other resources for learning, like the specific movements, or how to program this stuff in, or how to incorporate it as part of people's lifestyle? Where'd you learn this stuff?
Yeah, from everywhere. Like I said, especially over the last 8 years since I left college, like I've done like hundreds of courses, like the movement courses and strength courses, like that Bruce Lee quote, like, you take bits off everyone and then make it uniquely your own. Yeah. Because a lot of things work. It's principles over systems. Like we've done so many different systems. But it's not the system is the answer. It's the principle behind the system. Yeah. So you can take bits from that system and apply it to the principles. So now every system works to a certain degree. So that's why it's very hard to say, do this, because we genuinely amalgamate so many. And I've mentors. I'm currently studying 3 different systems at the minute. And I'll take bits from that. It's just never. I fucking love this stuff. I just keep reading and learning more and doing stuff. So. There's no one thing. It's been a number of things, but again, looking at it from a lens of principles over systems, because unfortunately people go to this one system and it's amazing and can help people get amazing results, but then they get very dogmatic and say this is the only way and you're wrong, you can't do that. And it's like, well, our system isn't a system that isn't perfect. It's not. You have to look a bit bigger. It's the principles behind it. They are much more important. And now we can apply a lot of stuff to principles. Because the principles are all that matter. Once you have them principles, that's what's actually life changing, and not this one exercise, not the way that's done. And then that's what gets even worse again, because for example, I had someone the other day give out to me about Rob touching his hands to his floor and kind of bending over. And she basically said it was dangerous. His hands were in the wrong position. He should do it this way. And in yoga, there's a specific way to do a certain movement. But that's completely, the body's not that fragile. You can move any way you want to move. And there's nothing wrong with yoga. There's amazing yoga teachers. But that's what happens when you get dogmatic about one modality.
Yeah.
That's wrong. The way you've just done that is wrong. You have to do it this way. No, I don't. It's just movement. Don't make people fear of movement. There's nothing wrong. But you saying that's bad and this is better, it's essentially the exact same movement, except her hand position is different. So it's the same, still bending over, still doing everything that we're doing. Yet that, my way is more dangerous than that way. Come on, you have to laugh at me. Yeah. That's crazy. And that's what we don't like about getting dogmatic, And so we haven't got the one system, we haven't got the perfect system in any shape or form. It will keep evolving, we'll keep learning, and it's never ending, I suppose.
Hello. Quick 30-second break from your outrageously engaging listening experience to remind you that today's guest is Brian O'Loughlin from Movement 101, and we're chatting health, happiness, movement, performance, and much, much more. You can find all the links to everything we mentioned over in the show notes at www.prymal.ie/Brian Movement 101, and follow Prymal Pro, POYMALPRO, on Instagram for regular updates on the show. Enjoy the rest of the episode. It's kind of the same as most tribal or dogmatic things. Like if someone becomes a vegan,
yeah.
Like I have no problem with vegans, but I do have a problem with vegans telling me the only way to be is a vegan. I'm like, well, there's lots of issues with veganism. There's lots of issues with your standard diet. There's lots of issues with carnivore diets. There's lots of issues with keto. The key, I think, is just what you've said from a movement perspective or a lifestyle perspective, is take all of the bits that suit you the best from all these different things and apply them to yourself, and then don't be giving out to anybody else who wants to try a different way.
Exactly. And even in general, what we've always done, like, again, I'm not trying to preach from a higher ground when I'm better than you or something. Like we've always said, we're on this train that's going 90. There's loads of room, hop on. If not, we're trying to keep going 90. Like it's grand. Just having a bit of crack and just doing what we do,
Yeah.
And we'll never stop learning, So like, again, I'm not trying to force this down your throat to say this is the only way and you should do it this way. It's just my perspective. It's just what we believe, but it's coming from, again, a principles-based approach, because that's all that matters. It's the same with diet, like you mentioned.
Same with everything.
There's so many diets that you can do, but they all rely on the same principles of calorie deficit, of macros, whatever you want to say. Like there's principles behind every single diet, and that's more important in order to fit into your lifestyle than that one perfect diet. It's exactly about movement. Because what I want to do and what my Premier League footballer wants to do is completely different.
Yeah.
So I can't say that the office worker should do what the Premier League footballers do. The principles are the exact same. But I'm just going to approach them differently. That person will do something differently because their lifestyles are completely different. Their values are completely different. So I can't say this is the way you should do things and the way it's always done, the way we're always going to do them.
Yeah. And it is funny because when people do understand, people used to ask me all the time for advice on all this sort of stuff, injury prevention, strength and conditioning, what sort of training should I do for this or this? And my answer was always the same. It's like, I don't really know, because I don't know whatever it is, the goal that you're trying to achieve. However, here's what I understand about the basic foundational knowledge of this subject, if it's diet or strength and conditioning. And then I actually watched the people that come in with their program or whatever, their book or whatever it was, and I'd ignore all that and I'd explain, well, this is why you would do this certain type of exercise for this certain type of whatever, or these number of reps or whatever it might be, or move this way, and when they started to understand that, they were able to then look at, and it wasn't gibberish to them anymore. They were like, okay, now I this is bullshit then, so I shouldn't really be doing this because I don't want that, I want this. And then I was like, well, now you can build your own programs. Now you can learn how to move or lift or prevent injury or eat or whatever, your own way. And I was like, yeah, because I find that very empowering. And again, that's why I want to listen to people like you, because I start to understand these foundational principles then, and then I don't need to subscribe to your course anymore, because now I own the knowledge.
But it is true, and that's but that's the idea though, even with that one course that we have, this one-off payment. Because we'll keep updating that and doing that, because you have access to that now, and that should genuinely change your life if you apply them principles. But as you mentioned there as well, in our industry, it's a very low-level entry of a low-level barrier of entry. Is that right? So you could have a 6-week course, a 6-month course, or 4-year degree. So unfortunately, what I found and what me and Rob didn't like was that people weren't being educated. They were just being told what to do.
Yeah.
And what as I've always said for our clients, is that they are educated, they want to learn, so let's teach them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell them what to do. It's not just counting a few reps. It's not saying do it our way. The idea is that, like, here's our program and here's a bit of education around what you're doing, because that education is much more important than what you're doing. If you understand what the hell you're doing, you're much more, well, first of all, likely to do it, and secondly, understand it so you can actually continue to do it and then potentially teach other people. And that's the whole point, you know, because it is the idea of giving people the tools to transform their life. It's nothing to do with the actual tool itself.
Yeah.
It's the idea is that, look, here's a tool that you can now implement yourself. It's not that you have to use this hammer and everything's a nail. You can do whatever you want to do. Here, a couple of tools here, go mental.
Yeah.
Try.
And this is how we'll transition into the whole business and life side of the conversation as well, because I find that kind of model, you offering value, you teaching people how to do things for themselves, challenges the traditional model of this imbalance of knowledge. And I read this first, I think it was in Freakonomics. Ever read Freakonomics?
No.
I think it was in Freakonomics. I read this years and years and years ago, and I was like, whoa. And I was like, yeah, that makes so much sense. The reason the traditional model that we would have in terms of business, if you want to call it that, or capitalism maybe, is you have something that's really valuable, but you keep it. And you charge people to avail of your service, as opposed to giving people that value and then allowing them to invest in you for more value or for more guidance or whatever it is. So, for example, what you're doing is you're offering, like you're on this podcast now talking for free. You're explaining everything you do, your mindset, the reason behind it. That's becoming more popular now, but it challenges the traditional model of, I have all the information and you have to come to me and I will tell you what to do, but I'm not going to tell you how I came to that. Like the traditional one, people think about, I'm not going to go to doctors again, because I feel like sometimes I'm giving out. I'm never giving out about doctors. They're amazing, but the system doesn't really suit. But mechanics, let's use mechanics, right? And I know loads of people in mechanics, great mechanics as well. But sometimes you get a mechanic who doesn't tell you what they did to your car, why they did it, or how they did it, because they know you don't know anything about cars, and they can capitalize on that. They can take advantage of you and they can charge you €2,000 instead of €200 because they changed all the tires and they replaced all the spark plugs when all you need was an oil change. But you don't know that, so you just hand over your money and you say, I don't know anything about cars. Whereas what you're doing is you're bringing me in, you're sitting me down saying, right, Dan, here's your car. Let's have a look at the engine. This is how your engine works, right? And this is what's going on with your engine. So now you can go and maintain your engine, take care of your engine, and you'll never have to come and see me except rarely enough for big services or for electronic issues. But other than that, you can do everything to your engine. You can change the spark plugs and change the oil. There you go. Off you go. Now I feel, Jesus, Brian's after giving me so much. I'm going to go back to Brian. And I've done this with mechanics before as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to Brian. Now I can do the small jobs myself, but I'm going to go back to him because I trust him and he's giving me value, and I'm going to engage with him and we're going to grow together, and we have this whole community, and my car is going to be great for the rest of my life because I'm going to understand it. And if anything goes wrong, he's going to take care of me, and we're on this journey. And there's all these other people now who understand their cars, and if we ever have a problem, we can talk to each other. That's what's really powerful to me, and that's what I see someone like you doing, and I'm really interested in it. But it challenges this traditional model where we're designed to be factory workers and we do what we're told and we get paid our money, and there's an imbalance there. We're not supposed to educate ourselves because then we know too much, and then we stop paying for things that we don't really need. So like you mentioned to me before, why you wanted to grow, like whatever about getting into movement, grow your own business. Like you're creating, as you call it, a community here. You're not just opening a clinic where people come and pay you to have, all right, hey Brian, I'm here for 30 minutes, right? Do this, right, I'll see you next week. You're not doing that. You're empowering, you're educating, you're building a community. Why does that appeal to you more than just being able to get people in, have a revolving door and charge them 150 quid every time they come in?
Yeah, well, it comes from like a couple of things, I suppose. But one thing, my own experience, in the sense of like I was in pain and whatever, you know, and I felt lost and stuff, and I've got myself to this level and I'm being like, I'm nothing special, I haven't done anything amazing, I just understand this stuff. So knowing that if other people understood this stuff that they don't, because they haven't got awareness of it, that they too can transform their life like I have. So, you know, there's definitely something in terms of that. But there's a vision in terms of where I see myself in 10 years or 20 years and helping people. Like it's not just, oh, I'm going to charge €150 and get that and cash, you know, or pocket the cash and I'm happy out. Like this is a life that I really value. It's a vision that I see that will come to fruition. So, you know, it's bigger than me, essentially. It's a bigger purpose, you know. And that community then again is to give people the tools, the education. It's for me, it's selfish in the sense of I want to live a life that I love, and this is a life that I love. I want to be surrounded by people who are like-minded, the same mindset, who have the same drive. Like I'm building a community, but I'm part of other communities who are very similar, you know, who are on that that I learn from, etc. You know, so like it's just like building my own community in the same kind of vein as the ones I'm in. You know, because like I said, what I've got my body to, it's completely altered my whole life, and we've helped thousands of people to do the exact same thing over the last 3 years in Movement 101. So let's help millions of people do that. You know, there's no reason why we can't, and we're only being held back by our mindset. So it's to help as many people as possible and reach that vision.
Yeah, and like the other side of this as well, and it's something people shy away from sometimes as well, but I think it's really important, is the money side of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like money to me has always been, I'm weird with money sometimes, it's always been a way for me to be able to live the life I want to live. And that means freedom, to be able to do the things I want to do, to be able to sit here and have conversations with you, to be able to travel when I want to travel, and not just have the 2 weeks a year going to Spain to kind of recharge the batteries for the next 50 weeks or whatever like that. That's what it means to me. And obviously when you're building something like you're building now, there's a lot of people involved and invested, and it does cost money to come and see you. However, that doesn't need to be something that people get a little bit weird or itchy about.
Yeah.
Like it's okay. And we have these conversations as well, and I really, really enjoy them because, like you said, surrounding yourself with like-minded people really helps this vision. You have a vision, and I have a vision of being able to have the freedom to live really, really well. And that's what money always means to me, to take care of my family, take care of my friends, and have time to live well, and not fall into this trap of, yeah, I've got loads of money, but I've no time for myself to move, to eat well, to walk, to think, to spend time with my child, to improve my life, to be happy. And I'm really, really big on this. And sometimes I come across as really defeatist and dark, saying loads of people aren't happy. But I think it's a fact. Loads of people aren't as happy as they could be now. So I think there's much more potential for people to be much happier. And we're fighting a message that tells us you need to have all these things to be happy. But I don't believe in that. Now, it's a very grey line, but, well, you want loads of money. Well, I only want loads of money to give me loads of time. And I don't want loads of money. I just want enough money to give me the time that I want. I don't want loads of money to buy a huge mansion and to have all these cars and to have I like all that stuff, don't get me wrong. It's not evil. However, you have to, I feel, walk that line. So, yeah, like your drive, I assume, because we spoke about it, I'm not going to assume, because I know, because we've spoken about it, is pretty similar. You want to create a life for yourself that's free and that you can actually live and practice the things that you talk about. And I know myself as well, sometimes I talk about this stuff and I feel like an imposter, because then I go home and I'm not doing the practices every single day, and I don't journal every day, and I don't move every day. But I'm very aware now from talking to people like you and constantly having these conversations that at least every week I'm doing more of that stuff now, and soon it'll become every day, and then it'll be every hour, and that'll create an environment then where I have the time and hopefully the freedom to do more creative projects and build more communities. And I think that's the key to happiness. There you go, in a nutshell. But I think that building that kind of community, it's starting to happen. You're seeing it with Movement 101. Everyone who comes in here, I talk to them about, like Rachel Lee was in here, and she's an ocean swimmer. She's seeing hundreds of people down on the beaches going swimming, looking for that community as well. So people are genuinely looking for this. And I know that's a motivating factor for you as well, isn't it, in terms of money and business and growth?
Yeah, I mean, even the first thing I realised that, like, in terms of being an entrepreneur, I think what you have is that you have a chance to create a lifestyle for yourself that you really value yourself.
That's
so
the point,
that is the point. It's also that it's tough work. You know, Jesus Christ, I've had a few burnouts over the last 3.5 years, and mine over the last 8 years. You know what I mean? So there's that. But for me, a business is I want to have money, impact, and freedom. That's genuinely the three things that I want to have. The money allows me to live a lifestyle that I enjoy, but the money allows me then to have the impact and the freedom that I want to have. So we reinvest in the business, have done literally non-stop the last 3.5 years, build systems, build programs to reach more people, because that's the impact that I want to have. I genuinely believe we can help millions of people. And then you're right there, the freedom. I want to have the freedom that I can see my family, etc. But as I mentioned it then as well, but Naval saying, like, find work that people think is work, but actually it's play to you.
Yeah.
I love this stuff. Like, I genuinely, I'm not saying that it was easy for me to find this. I'm not saying I don't have tough days. I don't get depressed, because I definitely do. But like, I'm doing this for free. I do anything for free. I mean, I love talking about movement. I love having conversation with you. I love training clients. I literally love my lifestyle and creating this community, etc. So it's not just the money it gives you a chance to really create that life in terms of the impact that you have and the programs you can build and work, but actually play more in that sense, and definitely have a comfortable lifestyle and all. But it's not necessary to get anywhere or to get this thing. You're in the now. All you have is now. You know, so I think for me personally, what's been huge is that vision of where I'm trying to get to, because it's easier to make decisions. It's easier then to get through them tougher days. It's easier to reinvest in the business and to hire someone or whatever, because the aim is that there's a real passion to actually reach millions of people and change their life through movement, and not just to be a millionaire and make loads of money, but just to actually live a life and create a life that I enjoy 24/7, 7 days a week, 365. Again, doesn't mean it's easy, doesn't mean it's whatever, but like, we're going to die.
Fact.
So let's have a bit of crack, like genuinely, and it's not that I don't get imposter syndrome, because I definitely do. It's not that I'm afraid of failure, because I'm definitely afraid of failure, but it gets a little bit easier to lean into that failure. It gets a little bit easier to navigate that imposter syndrome when you just do a bit tougher stuff, or you help a few more people, or but the idea is that life is tough. It's always going to be tough. You're always going to be an imposter. You're always going to have failure. So we're going to die. Have a bit of crack, So and it's just, again, going back to that awareness. What do you want from your life, and don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to lean in. Don't be afraid to really believe in what you believe in, and voice someone that you believe that you can help, or whatever. A genuine passion for what I do. I have a genuine belief that we can help an awful lot of people, and my business hopefully reflects that. And what we plan to do with the business over the next few years, ideally, will also get us towards that vision that you want to get to.
Definitely. That was Naval Ravikant, for anyone who doesn't know.
Yes.
Naval, yeah, an absolute guru in terms of...
Genius.
Genius. Go listen to his podcast on his tweet storm. Have you listened to that one?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Actually, I have that book, actually. Have you read that book?
No.
I'll send it to you. It's amazing.
Please. Yeah. So Naval is if you're interested anyway in entrepreneurship or business or self-improvement or anything like that, he is an absolute guru. But yeah, like you do embody that. And you mentioned to me before that people would sometimes say to you, what you said there is really important. What some people would say to you sometimes is, look, Brian is he's Instagram famous now, and the business is growing, and he's great, and there's money and all this kind of stuff. You're a great lad, it's brilliant, but you're still the same person. And this is really cliche, but it's really important, because I ask everybody who is experiencing some form of success. Now, success is subjective. It means, but you are successful at the moment. You're doing what you love. You're growing your business. You're creating a community. I view that, from knowing you for a relatively short time, but from what you've explained to me, that you're on the right path. There's no there. You're not there.
Yeah.
But where is there? You're successful at what you're doing right now. And sometimes people can look at that and say, fair play, you're a great lad, aren't you? But every single day you probably experience the same feelings and emotions, and imposter syndrome you mentioned there, and depression and anxiety. And I talk about this a lot. And again, you've already said it before I even need to say it. You are building the tools. Money is one of them. Confidence is another one. Movement is one. Diet is one. Health is one. Wellness is one. You're building these tools so that when you inevitably have all these bad times, these days we don't feel good, these weeks that things mightn't be going well, when coronavirus comes along and kicks us all in the bollocks, you have enough tools there to be able to handle that, because that's not going to change. And I think sometimes the message we get is, life is going to be perfect if you do ABC. If you drive this car and have this house, life is going to be perfect. But that's absolutely the wrong message. Life is not perfect. Life is never going to be perfect, but you can develop the tools to become more resilient and become happier a lot more of the time. And you're not going to be happy all the time. And that's what I see and I hear when you speak like this as well. And sometimes when we have chats off mic too, is that you're building those same tools. It's what I'm trying to do. I said a while ago, I'm a couple of years behind you in my journey, but it's the same. I see the similar patterns in what you're doing to what I'm trying to do as well, to trying to give myself these tools. It's what I try and do with this podcast, or with anybody who comes in and chats to me here as well, is I'm just interested in being part of this movement. Forgive the pun, but part of this movement, and surrounding myself with people like you and other people that I enjoy.
But even you mentioned it there, but like surrounding people, like I have mentors in business and movements. So like I go to people who are doing what I want to be able to do. So I surround myself with people with the same mindset like yourself, who are doing similar work or have similar visions or goals that I have. I have systems in place daily to make sure they're non-negotiable. I go for my walks even when I couldn't be arsed. I train when I couldn't be arsed. I put stuff in my calendar first to make sure that them things are getting done, so I'm able to actually perform and handle the stresses of life and business and whatever. I don't get it right all the time, but I definitely have them systems that are a necessity in order to be able to combat life, And as we all know, like life is just mental. Like there's a lot of things going on. You're being pulled left, right, and center. Social media and all marketing and Netflix. And all. It's just go. And you have to take that responsibility. Again, it comes back to that yourself of really detailing. Well, what do I want from life? What does it require me to do? And you be that person now. So if you want something in reach this goal, the only reason way you're going to get there is it's massive for me, right? What's been a huge clarity is McGregor. So McGregor, for you guys, are going, I am the champion. I don't need you to tell me I'm the champion. And you can kind of,
it's a good impression.
Yeah, and you're kind of like, he's ripping the piss, like he's just kind of saying this now. But I look back on that now and go, like, Jesus, what he's saying actually, he genuinely believed he was the champion. So it wasn't about the belt, and he ended up getting the belt, fine. But right then and there, he trained like a champion. He believed like a champion. He spoke like a champion. He walked around. He genuinely believed he was the fucking champion. It doesn't make a difference. He has no belt.
Yeah.
He is the champion. So his belt is people wait for the belt to be the champion.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I am the champion. And all of a sudden, when he gets the belt, I'm not saying that you can believe and you can achieve all that kind of crack, but like he didn't need the belt to be the champion. So he made sure his lifestyle, his mindset, everything that he fucking embodied, he was walking around the fucking champion. And now he gets the belt as a result. He doesn't need the belt to have all that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people, that's what something that I've really worked hard on, especially over the last year, is that these goals and visions that I have, well, what's my lifestyle? What's my mindset? What my non-negotiables, my daily stuff that I do? And if I'm bullshitting myself of what I do every day, every week, every month, what the fuck do I think I'm going to achieve?
Yeah.
You know, and it was a huge thing for me, you know, because I have massive goals and I've achieved really big goals over the last few years and stuff. And it's like, I'm an idiot. Like, how in God's name am I going to be the champion? And I'm not acting like a champion. My lifestyle doesn't say I'm a champion. My mind doesn't say I'm a champion. Everything I do isn't a champion's work ethic. So if I can now apply that champion mindset and all the stuff that goes with that, well, I'm much more likely to be the champion one day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I swear to God, when I realised that with McGregor, it was fucking life-changing for me. Like, absolutely life-changing. So, like, the likes of my vision and stuff, genuinely, I'm already there. The stuff I want to achieve in 5, 10 years, I'm embodying that now. But I genuinely do live a lifestyle now. It's different over the last 6 months to a year than I've ever done, because I really realize now it's like, no, fuck this. Like, let's go with it now. Let's be that person right now. And the best thing about doing that is like, this is fucking deadly, because the thing that you want, you're actually doing. You know what I mean? You really are. You're here.
You're living it. Like,
yeah. And it really is. Like, I really feel like I've achieved the things that I want to achieve. And again, it's not about achieving it, because it's not about achieving it. And again, it sounds cliche, but it's the person you fucking become in order to achieve it. So be that person now. And I think the bigger issue people have is they don't know what they want to achieve. And I sit down every day. I have sat down for fucking years. I have visions. I journal. I do everything. I'm so sure of what I want to achieve for me and my values and my lifestyle and who I am. Not to impress anyone, not to do whatever. But if you know what you want to achieve, it's a hell of a lot easier than to be that person or implement them ideas to kind of get there. But if you don't know where you're going, it's fucking impossible. So forget everything else. It's literally impossible to get to where you want to get to when you haven't a clue where you want to get to.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't go to a gym without a plan. You wouldn't go to a fucking hotel and drive down without knowing where the hell you're going. You know, we know in order to get to the end of that destination of that journey, you need to know where the hell you're going. I think that's a bigger issue for people. I've always had that vision. That's never been an issue for me. But I actually wasn't. I was bullshitting myself, you know. So that's what's changed for me over the last year in particular. And again, it's nothing special, and McGregor's nothing special. Looking around, people genetically are more gifted than others. But I think people miss out on a huge percentage of their potential only because they don't know where they want to go, and they don't realise the power that they have every single day, week, month, year to actually implement that stuff to get there.
Yeah. Oh, it's inspiring, man.
Yeah, it's fucking mad.
Yeah. But that's the key. Like you mentioned the McGregor thing there. I know I haven't actually read this book, so I'm not qualified to talk about it, but that book, The Secret, and everyone was talking about this visualization, believe and you will achieve, and all this kind of stuff. And these are the buzz phrases were peppered with every single day, which I've two takes on this. One, it's great that people are more exposed to positive feedback. So it'd be terrible if it was all fucking negative. You're shit. So it is positive, but there's no substance to it. There's no meat to it. Believe and you will achieve. That's it. Believe. So people think, well, I just have to believe it and it's going to happen to me. I'm entitled to it. And I do think we are entitled as a society at the moment, because life is a little bit easier than it used to be.
Yeah.
In some ways. It's more difficult in other ways. So we are entitled. And I think we get lost in that sometimes. I'll believe and I will get there. But that's not what McGregor was doing. It's not what you're talking about. He was living it. Every day he lived when he was in... He's from Crumlin, is he?
I think so.
Yeah, he was in, and I read the books, and look, no, we don't really know him. I'll pretend we know him because we've seen him on TV and read the books, whatever like that. But the story is fairly consistent. From that early stage, he was just, I am a fucking champion. I'll kill anybody. When they took the belts off him, he was like, you took them back, but I'm still the fucking champion.
Yeah.
Like, he lives it. He lives it constantly. Now, there's a lot of things people don't like about McGregor, but I always respected the fact that he talked the talk and he walked the walk and he lived it every single day until it happened. He was living it before it happened, and I was like, that's pretty cool. The difference between that and just thinking about something's going to happen is huge.
And but you mentioned there as well, though, which is really true, because he believed that he still lost the belts. So there's still shitty days.
There's still shitty days.
Exactly. So and this is the thing about this kind of idea of positive thinking and etc. Because there is good, there's bad, there's night, there's day, there's yin, there's yang, there's man, woman. there's always the opposite to whatever the hell you're going through.
Yeah.
So it's just because I have that vision and because I'm happy out in my life now doesn't mean shit doesn't happen, doesn't mean I don't get depressed, doesn't mean that bad days aren't ahead. Like, it's still normal life, it's still very, very tough.
Yeah.
But again, the idea is that you've got systems in place, you got a vision of what you're doing, you understand that it's a journey, it's a process, and these things will happen, and you're much more able to not necessarily handle, but you're able to push through these tougher times. You're not being pulled down for 3 months of depression as opposed to it's only now going to be for a month or whatever, and be able to have these systems and still actually progress during tough times,
Absolutely.
And I think that's the difference we're having, that because no one's always happy, and anyone you look at who's successful or has done really well, whatever, they have plenty of shitty days, they've worked really hard to get to where they are, and they shit like you and me.
In fact,
we're all human, and we all struggle through life in a certain way, and things make it a little bit easier to struggle through life.
Yeah.
That's all it really is, and we all have them tools. Again, it comes back to the awareness of what you can do, but we've all access to them tools to really implement in your life, and they're absolutely life changing. Like Jordan Peterson's stuff, I found about 2 years ago.
Amazing.
And that was huge for me.
Did you do his whole life planning? Do you know he does a kind of an exercise?
Yeah, I didn't do the life plan. I did the I found the other one, the personality one.
Oh, yeah.
The authoring thing, I forget what it's called, but I got that. I think it was
self-authoring.
Yeah, it's only like €20 or something. But no, again, all the stuff is on YouTube. I've read his book and all.
Yeah.
I listened to his podcast, like, geez, left, right, and centre, the amount of them.
Yeah.
And it's just something I've always been curious in general, like Alan Watts years ago, and like all this stuff I kind of listen to. But it's not just to listen to consume, and it's going to motivate me and all that. But the idea is that I kind of take little bits from it, journal about it, talk about it, implement it, and see if it works for you. And that's, I think, in this day and age, it's amazing. Like, we've access to YouTube, we've access to social media, we've access to these people that we would just never have their ideas from. Or again, you'd find a book that maybe you could get through if you had access to that. But it's just amazing. And even like the likes of books and stoicism and all that. Like, there's people who've been around for thousands of years who've done amazing stuff, and you can learn from. You don't need to go through these hardships that they've gone through. You can actually learn from them, and that's what education and reading and stuff does. That's what I'm trying to do. I've gone through hardships in terms of pain and what I've tried. I'm trying to tell people, look, you don't actually need to do that stuff, because I did it and it doesn't fucking work and it's fucking awful, know? And that's why you should be educating yourself on whatever you want to do, because that's life-changing when you implement that stuff.
Yeah. I used to say this all the time. We have the power to do literally anything we want, literally in our hands now with our phones. You can access any information you want, and we use it to look up videos of cats falling off roofs. I was like, that used to be in my head. I always used to think about that. I waste so much time, and I could be improving myself. But there is a barrier there. You said you've always had a vision and never struggled with your vision. However, you do things every single day that helps refine your vision for you. So it's not just the fact that you've always had this vision, it's been easy. It used to remind me of people used to say to me, I ran when I was younger, and I was quite fit for a GAA player. Now, I wasn't a phenom athlete. I'm not a special athlete at all, but I was very fit at the time. And people used to say, it's easy for you if we did a hard session and I breezed through it because you're naturally fit. And I was like, in my head, I was like, I hate this stuff. I grind through it. I ran cross country to get fit for GAA. I did all these different things to get fit. And it bugged me when people say you're just naturally fit. So I'm sure some people say to you, it's easy for you. You have this vision and you have this momentum and it's all that kind of stuff. But you're doing things literally every day that move you, even if it's only 1 millimeter closer to that goal. And when you do 1 millimeter every single day, that all adds up over years and years and years. So you're moving yourself, you're creating your own momentum.
And it's so true, because I have mentors, like I said, in business and movement and mindset and stuff. And all them people are obviously at a different level in terms of what they do in their field than I do.
Yeah.
And they might be genetically more gifted, but they do stuff I don't do.
It's the same.
Like, it really is that simple. Like, they're at that level in terms of mindset and movement and business, because they literally do things I'm trying to learn and implement myself that I don't do right now, and they're at a higher level. So, like, I don't care what anyone says. Like, genetically, people are gifted, fine, but them genetically best people in the world, again, like your Usain Bolts, like they do say, pick your parents to be an Olympic athlete.
Yeah,
that's fine,
absolutely.
But like Usain Bolt is still an absolute freak of a man who doesn't stop training and running and lives a lifestyle that the majority of people don't live. Like, Ronaldo and Messi are genetically gifted, don't get me wrong, but they live a lifestyle. They have a mindset. I train professional athletes left, right, and centre. I swear to God, the best athletes I train, they have a different mindset, they have a different work, a different systems and stuff in place than the other person who's not as successful.
That's the key. They've put these systems in place, or they've been taught these systems, or they didn't just wake up one morning and they have an advantage over me and you. Genetically fine, but like, probably in everybody's friend group, there's probably somebody who could maybe not beat Usain Bolt, but could compete in the Olympics. They have the potential to genetically, probably. We all know somebody who don't know who that person is, but there's another 50% of potential that we're all missing out on because we're putting that block in place for ourselves. Well, I'm not genetically gifted.
Exactly, and even that's a limitation. It's a limitation that you're pulling yourself back from trying something or doing something because you think I can't do that because of X.
Yeah,
and like that's a bigger issue then you not being genetically gifted because you just don't believe you can't do it, so you don't even try.
Yeah.
And so, but if you could try and have them systems, well, let's just see what happens here. You know what I mean? And maybe you can't be an Olympic athlete. That's fine. You know what I mean? But like you can do a hell of a lot more than I think most people give themselves credit for.
And most people don't want to be an Olympic athlete. They don't want to. And like I really struggled to try and put some shape on how do you help people, because again sometimes I sound like I'm preaching or pontificating. I don't do 90% of the stuff we talk about. I'm trying to learn about it. I'm trying to educate myself. I'm really passionate. I get really, really worked up about it. I really want to learn this stuff. But creating momentum, when you have that inertia, when you have to break that inertia for a huge amount of people who have barriers, they have all these barriers. I'm not genetically gifted. I have no time in my life. I have family I need to take care of. All these barriers they have in weight. Now, a lot of these things are genuine barriers, but not enough to stop you from creating 1% of momentum. So I've always been really interested in how do we listen to someone like Brian O'Loughlin, who's on this journey and is motivated and has all his non-negotiables and he's moving in the right direction, which you've built, by the way. It's not just, didn't just happen to you. How do we listen to you or someone like you and create our own momentum? What's that thing that we do to create our own momentum? And you've talked about some of it there. I'm big on journaling. I don't do it half enough, but when I do it, I'm like, I feel the momentum. I almost feel like a little hand on my back. You wrote that down. So is that what you want? Yeah. Well, okay. This week, maybe move towards that a little bit. Sometimes I get to the end of the week, I'm like, fuck, I didn't get anywhere near that goal. I made myself busy with a million different things. I distracted myself. So then I write those things down. Like, there's all the things that distracted me. And then the next week, that little hand is on my back again. And I get to the end of the next week, I'm like, oh, I'm not rich. I haven't achieved my ultimate goal, but I'm a little bit closer and I feel that momentum. And all of a sudden you're walking and then you feel the little run and you're running and you might make a bigger decision. That's how I see it happening with me. And that's how I think it happens with most people. Most of us aren't genetically gifted or don't just wake up or aren't super, super lucky by birth. We're born into the situation we want to be in. But we can create our own momentum. And I believe in the majority of cases. There are some cases that are very difficult for people. And I always mention things like if you have a dependent who's sick, for example, you have someone who relies on you 24 hours a day, it is very hard to create your own momentum. But I think if most of us are creating a little bit more of our own momentum, those people who really struggle, we can help them as well, because now we're all moving forward together. But I find at the moment, me included, we're a little bit stagnant and we're looking for those things to create momentum, which is why we have now a lot of buzz around gratitude journaling, sea swimming, Movement 101 is flying now, because people are like, that looks like something that could give me my little bit of momentum. Yeah. And you're not just talking about the traditional, I'll come in and I'll give you an exercise. What do you believe in? How do you think? What do you do for a living? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? What are you eating? How are you sleeping? And people are like, this guy can help me with that little hand back, that 1% next week. And then maybe the next week I can make my own decision. I believe that's where it comes from. And when you're telling your story now, I can see it in you. That's what you've done. Even though you say it's always been easy for me to have a vision, that's only a small percentage of it. But that could be the percentage that tips some people over the edge. Sit down and write out your vision. That's what Jordan Peterson is big on. You've said it there. If you don't know where you're going, how can you get there? So sit down and write it out.
Well, even like people, a bit of advice. James Clear's Atomic Habits. I'm sure you've read.
Amazing.
That's a really digestible book. It's amazing. It will change so many lives. But like even just this idea of like small wins, you know, and I do think knowing where you want to get to, having that some level of vision is helpful. But like small wins, like for me, I go on a walk every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. and it's pretty much non-negotiable. And unless it's raining, I'll change to a Thursday or something. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't be asked walking around. But like say if my daughter sleeps literally 3 hours the night before, I'm getting up. Like, I'm just going to do it. I mean, because I said I'm going to do it. It gives me a chance to clear my brain. I get a hell of a lot more creative. I can work a hell of a lot better. And it's not even that I'm walking and that's the benefit, whatever. It's actually that I'm not bullshitting myself. And I actually do this thing. And after a week and after a month and after 6 months, I'm like, fucking hell, I've walked, you know, what I said I would do. And I've actually done it. And something as simple as that. Literally just walking for half an hour on my own. And sometimes my friends will join me. And that's what I mean. It's nothing major. Literally, if you do something simple as that, and you do it when you don't really want to do it, but you know that it's going to benefit you, and you end up doing it, you go, fucking fair play to me, like, you know, and you get that little win. And that little win now is like, that's good. And you can maybe stack something else on top of that. Well, how about if I go to the gym then on top of that twice a week? So I'm going to walk Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Maybe I'll go to gym on Tuesday and Thursday morning or something. So that you do that for 6 months. So you just started initially going, I could walk 3 times. You've done that. You've now started to go to the gym twice a week on top of that. Do that for 6 months, and I guarantee you'll be in a much better position you were 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people then either think too big, they end up doing too much to their lifestyles, completely like not going to change, just too much disruption, or They miss a day of walking on a Wednesday. Fuck it. It's gone.
Done.
Yeah. Like I haven't gone for 3 days each time. Like sometimes Sailor's sick or something, I have to get up and I can't go for the walk or whatever. That's fine. So it's like, okay, I missed that. No worries. Friday's coming. Let's go again.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that like I said to myself 3 times. I've on my calendar 3 times. If I do miss one because life takes over, life is fucking crazy. That's fine. It's already it's done. You just keep going. Just because that one missed session is nothing in 6 months. That one missed walk is nothing. But all we see is that one session, and that just goes to 2 and 3, and then it's gone. But it's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, in life is literally a marathon, not a sprint. If you do things well over time, you end up missing 1, 2, 3 times. It's nothing. It really is nothing. You know, I can miss that walk for a week now, and it won't really affect me because I'll go again the following week. I've done it for so long now. You know, and that's but Atomic Habits by James Clear. I get clients to read that an awful lot. It's a really, really good book.
And just to try and make it relatable to people who listen as well, who are not elite at whatever it is they're doing. We're in the field of athletics, so let's stick with athletics, because you work with a lot of high profile athletes. I've worked with some high profile athletes, and apart from the 1 or 2% who are just different, who it is easy for them because they have genetic advantages or whatever, who still work very hard, by the way, 99% of those people do the exact same thing that you're talking about there, just on a different scale. And they started somewhere. Maybe they had a bit of help, maybe they didn't have a bit of help, but they're not different than me and you. And it's a cliche thing for people to say, but I'm trying to make it really relatable, because this is how it was explained to me from all these different sources. I eventually started to learn from meeting these different people and seeing these people doing amazing things. I was like, they're just like me. So I'm not an inferior person here. They just started their momentum, and now they have all of this momentum that they've created from the small little building blocks, exactly like you've just discussed. Some of them might have started with a walk in the Monday morning, and now they're a professional rugby player. They might have started with journaling every Sunday evening, and now they're an Olympic weightlifter. It's the same thing. Someone might be the head of an international conglomerate making millions of dollars every year. Most likely the same thing. They have processes in their lives that they started that were really small.
Evan, you're describing there as like a high performer.
High performance people.
And I think that's the difference, because even like all the athletes I train, if you know any of them who are professional, they've all come to me off their own bat. They all pay me off their own bat.
I find it so interesting.
So like they're like going, right, look, what's the crack? I've seen this. I think that can benefit my career. So I'm going to go out of my way and pay my own money in order to help my career and help my performance and help ultimately the team or whatever, if they're with the team. So like even just that alone. So they're literally just doing that off their own bat in order to actually be better at what they do. And I even heard this thing about like LeBron. I always hear the stories about LeBron. Like he'd ring the trainer at 4 a.m, but like, yeah, man, I'll see you there at 5 a.m. And the trainer's like, all right, yeah, I'll see you then. And the trainer gets there at 5. He's been there for the last half an hour sweating the box out himself. So again, it's just like, yeah, he's a freak, genetic guy, can never do what he does. And yet, like, he's the hardest worker, you know?
Yeah.
And the best thing then with working with these people is that their mindset and stuff gets pretty infectious, like, because you're like, fucking hell, like, Jesus, that's just really cool, and look what he's achieving, and he's actually the best in his sport, and he's winning everything, and just, you know, look what he's actually doing.
Yeah.
And if you can apply some of them things to your own life, because I'm not going to be all-out winner, I'm not going to win the Premier League anytime soon, but I have goals myself I want to achieve. I can take that same mindset and them same kind of disciplines into my own life, then it can transform what I can do or what I can achieve, or, you know, and you will only really be held back by your mindset. And your mindset, just like your body, requires work, requires effort, requires discipline, requires you to be consistent with them things, and that can improve just like your muscle or your body can, you know. And just like your body, by not training it can atrophy, and it'll get used to who you're around and what you do, and you know. So it's the exact same thing. It's really malleable. Your brain's very malleable, just like your body. You know, you can really have a massive impact. You can really improve it by getting better information, or where you get it from, or being surrounded by people. And
well, we spoke about that before. Like this mindset thing, people get really frustrated because they say, well, my mindset isn't like that. But if you're surrounded by a certain type of person, your mindset is going to reflect a lot of the decisions that those people make as well. And we spoke about this several times, that in order to really improve, you need to surround yourself with good, positive, inspiring people. And sometimes that means making slightly more difficult decisions, not cutting people out of your life, but interacting with people in a different way. And I'm not just talking about family and friends, even where you work, the people you engage with, the people that you do your day-to-day with. If you're surrounded by people who don't have the same values and drives as you, it's very, very hard to break out from that. Whereas if you are LeBron James's trainer, I'm sure he became a much better trainer just by being around LeBron James. Exactly. And the whole goal was the other way around. He was supposed to train LeBron James. But by you meeting Rob and surrounding yourself with high performance people constantly now, you're getting ideas. I know you do some coaching and do some mentoring and stuff like that as well. You're surrounding yourself constantly with people that influence your mindset. You do things that influence your mindset. I try to do things that influence my mindset. And those high performers are the exact same. So it's not about, because I used to get really frustrated, I don't know if you were the same, but I don't think like that. I'm not motivated
Yeah.
like that. I can never do that. I'm not made like that. It was the same thing as I was saying the same thing that people say to me. You're just naturally fit. Some people are just naturally motivated and driven. And yeah, some people have different challenges in their lives that mean they're more motivated or whatever like that. But you can change that. It is malleable. You can influence it. I had Collie on talking about somatics, and he was like, it's a feedback loop. You can change, and he was talking about your physical body, obviously, but you can change how you think and the way your body is by interrupting that feedback loop. You have the control.
Brilliant.
You can do it. You have the power.
And that happens oftentimes. That's why you get the likes of near-death experience. It's been life-changing, or psychedelics. It's been life-changing because that does it for you.
Yeah.
You've no choice, mate. You know, you've taken this fucking ayahuasca, or you've nearly killed yourself, or you did die and then you came back to life, and that just does it for you.
Yeah.
And that's why then people can literally have a life-altering experience that completely change their mindset altogether, and they end up doing something that they want to do that they weren't doing previous because they've been shocked into that. But if that can happen, doing them things, that means it's inside you already. So it can happen by just doing things that are nowhere near as impactful, but much more subtle and much more consistent, and that over time is life-changing.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be ayahuasca or ketamine. It doesn't have to be running 200 miles. It doesn't have to be rowing across the ocean. It doesn't have to be doing these insane things. We have the benefit of being able to look at people who do these things and learn their lessons. It could be your journal or your walk or your cup of tea.
And actually, I have found, because I've done some of them things, and I haven't done any of them important things.
But Golden Boy, Brian, Movement 101.
No, but like in terms of like for me personally, like the little small things like journaling, like walking, like working with someone in terms of my mental health and all, like them things are a lot slower and tap.
Yes.
It's a lot more digestible. I can actually implement that stuff, and I actually get a much more benefit over the long term without having to disrupt my life massively. And that's something that what we do with movement. With movement, we're trying to show the brain, the body, the nervous system, that feels okay. Don't worry, that feels okay. And it just gives you a bit more. And all of a sudden you get more movement capacity, as opposed to what people would do is they stretch the living life out of their hip and go, more. But you're holding on. Your nervous system's like, no, I don't. And you might get a little bit, but you're just forcing and you're forcing.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have to force, whilst you might improve, you're just working extremely hard for small little gain. And if you actually just keep that consistency and that just tapping, and you just kind of work on the edge of a little bit too much, but again, not too much that you can actually physically handle, well, first of all, you do it because it's a little bit easier, and you'll get much better long-term results, because against the marathon, the body gets good at what you do, the brain gets good at what you do. If you do it for an extended period of time, you can digest that a lot easier, you can accept that a lot easier without having to literally, crash and burn or kill yourself. Yeah.
Just another way of movement as a metaphor for life.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I know we're a bit tight for time now. Just before you go, what's next in the pipeline for Movement 101? Because you've been growing consistently. Things are getting really, really big. What's the plan moving forward?
So for 2021, our big plan would be kind of this new monthly program that we have, a new monthly platform. We're getting an awful lot of people involved in that to just similar in the sense of movement to change your whole life, really, But this is going to be a big focus for us now over the next few years. Podcast with yourself, Daniel. We have
didn't know what you're going to say. It's a big plug for me. Super.
Yeah, we have obviously we've done a few episodes, and we're planning to launch that ideally at the end of January, but your time will tell. Yourself.
Yeah, and without blowing smoke, serious value.
Yeah, which has been great so far.
And
really,
really
but the aim is even to grow that in 2021.
Incredible stuff.
Kind of beyond, and just keep doing what we're doing, really. Maybe at a little bit larger scale. Ideally, getting into the UK for 2021.
Yeah.
But just keep living the life that we enjoy doing, helping people as much as we can, and having a bit of crack along the way.
And what's the best way for someone, I know you were saying you're booked out now and all that kind of stuff, but for people to engage with you or with your brand, or to start investing in some of this value, what's the best way to do that?
Instagram probably is the best bet. Brian_Movement101. We have loads of programs there you can sign up to straight away, gain lifetime access to. Individual clients, you can get in touch with me if you want to. If I can't take you on because I'm busy, I'll certainly point you in the right direction if you're in pain or you have an issue. But just drop me a message, a DM on Instagram with any questions. I'll happily give as much of my time as I can. And movement101.com is our website, but Instagram is probably the best place to go.
Amazing. Look, I know there was a few topics we didn't actually touch on there, but if you'll come back on in a few months' time, we'll get back into it again. But really enjoyed that. Absolutely fantastic. You are an inspirational figure. I really enjoyed chatting to you, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and chat to us.
Thanks very much, man.
You're very welcome. Chat to you soon.
Bye-bye.
What a way to kick off 2021. If listening to Brian doesn't help motivate you to create habits that are going to help you work towards your real potential for happiness and health, then I don't know what will. Thanks, Brian. Absolute class. You can find all the links to Brian and Movement 101 in the show notes over at www.prymal.ie/Brian Movement 101. Guys, we have a huge year ahead, with lots of challenges for sure, but my goal with this podcast and many of the projects we've got planned this year is to create a resource where you and me can learn and experience the things that will help us to create the lives we want for ourselves and for the people we love. The guests on the Prymal podcast have so much value to share, and I am so grateful for everyone who's been on the show and all of the incredible guests to come this year. And I'm also grateful for you listening to this podcast and helping me grow this community. I am buzzing for the year ahead. If you would like to help me drive this on in 2021, you can show your support by simply subscribing to the show wherever you get your podcasts, leaving a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. This makes such a huge difference to how many people find the show. And you can follow the journey on Instagram and Facebook at Prymal Pro, PRYMALPRO. Thank you so much for listening. See you in the next episode.